It doesn't look like any of you are talking, but we're certainly not getting any sound. If anybody is making any noise there.
Can you hear us at all now?
I
Rika,
hear
is anything coming through, Rika?
it is. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just speak up a little bit more. We're in a reorganization right now. So far, there's been a nomination for Joseph Kubla as the chair. Mr. Bodenberg made that nomination. Any other nominations? Everybody rush. Hearing none, go ahead and call a vote. All in favor of Joseph Kubla, be the chair of the planning commission, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. And any abstentions, I'm going to abstain because I was the one nominated. Any nominations for vice chair?
I'll nominate Brian Bosenberg.
Any other nominations? All in favor of Brian Bodenberg for vice chair, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Any abstentions? And Brian is abstaining. Now for our favorite position. Who wants to be clerk? I'll accept nominations for clerk of the planning commission.
I'll nominate Hank.
Oh, I'll nominate Mike.
Oh, what contentious
Unless you
election
don't want to,
here.
in which case I'll nominate him. I don't want to.
I'll nominate by 8:30. How about you, sorry?
I'm busy with another board.
So Hank has been nominated, Mike has been nominated.
I'll rescind the nomination. Mike's nomination.
Thank you.
And his nomination's been rescinded, and Howard's nomination has been rescinded as well.
I'll second Hank's nomination.
Thank you.
Doesn't
You
require.
don't have to.
All in favor of electing Hank as our clerk, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay.
Echo.
And any abstentions? All right, Hank, congratulations.
Shoot.
I'm gonna get you a quill and ink
Oh, boy.
and some parchment.
Was it gonna help?
No, at least it'll look official, you know?
We should have like meeting chips or something.
Do we have any names in for the recording secretary at this time?
I did see, I had an email from patients who said that she's happy to do the minutes from the recording.
Okay. Do we hear any nominations for recording secretary?
I'll nominate Patience as recording secretary.
Do we have a second or any other nominations?
I'll second that.
All right, Brian is nominated, Patience Pierce for recording secretary. Howard Beach has seconded that. All in favor of Patience Pierce for recording secretary? Well, actually, sorry, any discussion? Before we go into voting, I do have just a quick little discussion to kind of highlight on what we'd expect for minutes from the board. We want to keep them, as a clear, concise record as what's done and not necessarily a transcript of everything that was said. We'll keep them short and concise, but still capturing all action points. When we have public comments, we want to make sure we record the person that is, making comments and speak on the topic of what they were talking about. We don't need to summarize or transcribe anything. I do want to caution anybody for doing direct quotations because we wouldn't want to have anything misconstrued or put across in a way that wasn't representative of the person. That being said, I'm still very happy to have Patience as nominated, so let's go ahead and do the vote on that. All in favor of Patience Pierce for recording secretary for the planning commission, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, signify by saying nay. Any abstentions? Patience Pierce has been appointed as the planning commission's recording secretary. And thank you for continuing to do this, Patience. We appreciate that very much. Moving on to comments from the chair and land use administrator, Ryan. You got anything?
I have nothing.
I don't have any comments per se, other than hi, everybody, and thanks for coming out. As always, it's good to see people out in the crowd coming in to contribute to the meetings. Always good to have public involvement. Any comments from citizens regarding, oh, sorry, anybody else in the board have any comments? Thanks. Any comments from citizens regarding items not on the agenda? Dr. Murray?
I have a comment on the town plan, but I have a short comment also on Act 181. I see Act 181.
If you show up to the podium so we can pick you up, please.
Yeah, obviously.
Thank you.
I see Act 181 on the agenda, so I have a short comment for that. And then, but for the town plan, I have a comment also. I don't know if that's in the agenda or is separate.
We don't specifically have the town plan listed. We do have some documentation from it, kind of like in our strategic planning area. I'd be fine with hearing both comments now, and obviously more input during the meeting as well. If you have anything else, Brian?
I just, have we scheduled the public hearing for that yet?
Yes.
Yeah, so we will be having a public hearing on the town plan at the planning commission before it goes to the select board.
Yes, I'm aware. So this is just a one-page comment. It's probably 2 minutes, if I may.
Absolutely, sir.
Okay, thank you, Chair. My name is Dr. August Murray, and I want to begin by recognizing the work of the Planning Commission and the others who provided input into the process. Planning is important, but it must remain balanced with respect for privacy rights, rural livelihoods, and the independence of Vermont landowners. To that end, I have prepared about 4 or 5 pages after this meeting that I'll send in advance of the public hearing. That'll give you an idea of the concerns I have with recommended revisions to address those concerns. But I will participate in the public hearing.
This is for the town plan?
Yes, for the town plan. After reviewing the draft plan, I'm concerned it moves Weathersfield towards expanded regulatory control over private land. The plan proposes multiple new regulatory and land use layers, including overlay districts, river corridor, aquifer protections, expanded conditional use review, access limitations, and wildlife habitat restrictions. The town plan states conservation as the #1 priority for Weathersfield, and all other purposes secondary. Collectively, these measures significantly expand municipal authority over how landowners may use their property or have used their property in the past. It's going to reduce property rights by forcing a portion of land into conservation, allowing only a percentage to be subdivided for certain landowners. Weathersfield is not an urban municipality. It is a working lands community built on farms, forests, and private managed land. Landowners depend on the ability to farm, harvest, timber, build, and steward their property without undue government interference. I have other concerns too. Vermont law protects working lands. Under 24 VSA 4413, municipalities may not regulate accepted agricultural or forestry practices. 24 VSA 4414, it recognizes agriculture and forestry as permitted uses. The right to farm statute is 12 VSA 5753. It protects agricultural operations from unreasonable interference. And also 10 VSA 1259 establishes statewide standards for forestry practices. This town plan contradicts these Vermont statutes and places limits by promoting only certain uses in these lands. There are also other protections to be mindful of. Property owners have what is known as a right of quiet enjoyment. And there's also the takings clause of the Fifth Amendment. It provides that private property shall not be taken for public use without just compensation. If regulatory restrictions are put in place by Weathersfield to substantially limit the lawful use of or value of private land, the town could face takings liability. I'm going to finish with this. Weathersfield's future should be guided by its residents, not by layers of overregulation that gradually turn private land into property the owner can no longer reasonably use as they choose. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to providing inputs with draft recommendations for you to consider through the public hearing process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Ryan, what was our set date for the hearing?
It is April 6th, Monday, April 6th.
So, Dr. Murray, please be here on the sixth of April to have those concerns voiced again, in the hearing.
Yes, sir.
And,
Sorry, I think I hit the wrong button.
Documentation, and I'll distribute it to the other members. of the board.
No, I'm at home. I'm
Rika, you're not muted,
oh, sorry.
unless you'd like to chime in too. It is public comment. Okay, April, what was it, 6th, you said?
Yes.
Thank you. Mike, you were about to say something?
Well, I have some comments regarding the hearing. Take it up under other business.
Yes, we can. Any other comments from citizens for items not on the agenda? Hearing none, moving on to approval of the meeting minutes for March 2nd, 2026. Do I hear a motion to approve the meeting minutes for March 2nd, 2026? If necessary.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bogenberg has made the motion. Do we have a second?
Howard second.
And Mr. Beach has seconded that. Any discussion? I did note that in the meeting minutes, when the motion was made for the public hearing, the date was not listed on that motion. Did we have the date in that motion when we made the hearing? Feel like
Should have been.
we would have when we did it.
Or
we wish we did if we didn't.
Like to have the motion reflect the date in there just for clarity, if anybody wants to go back and see it. Any other comments or discussion points on that? But everybody run at once. Excuse me. That was a pretty short meeting. It was almost a record for us. So we have a motion to approve the minutes with corrections. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed signify by saying nay. Any abstentions? The ayes have it. The meeting minutes are approved with corrections. Moving on to item number 7, which is, well, new item number 7, which is the Act 181 agricultural implications. This opens up with email in here, Brian, that you had produced between you and Jay, or you and
Jason.
Jason it was, but Jason was, okay, yeah, I see it there.
So,
I'll let you take over on this one, because this is your baby.
thank you. So it started out, we've all been so focused on the town plan. I haven't had a lot of time to look at Act 181, and then I started to dig into it. And then Jason was so kind enough to be back and forth with me. And then as I got into this thing, I realized that it has some pretty tremendous implications for not only us, but for the entire state. I know that most of Weathersfield, and Jason, please correct me if I'm wrong, is going to be, besides the tier 1A and 1B areas, is really going to be tier 2. The maps have been revised to greatly reduce any tier 3 areas.
That's not final.
Yeah,
That's not final, so yes.
Yeah.
At this point, that's right.
So I was concerned about that, and I was also concerned about the road rule, which I think some other people in the audience tonight might be concerned about the road rule, and the fact that that's coming down on us in July. One of the things I heard today, I'm on an email listserv, and at the Senate committee today, S325 advanced to the House, a measure to slow down the Act 181, and they're really gonna, if this still has to go to the House and all kinds of other things have to happen, but it would take this and really kick it out a couple of years, give everybody a chance to stop and take a deep breath, just because of the complexity of this thing. The more I read it, the more questions I had. The other thing that I thought about as a small farm operation is slowly growing. We're a vineyard and we grow grapes, but we only sell grapes. We don't make wine. but the lag time it takes for us to plant these things and get a crop. You know, if I'm thinking about the way the 50% rule reads, which I understand is under Act 250, but they're also 181 looks at this, that you lose your exemption while you're trying to produce these crops, and not just grapes. It's and I know very little about raising cows, but you know, I was told that that takes 18 months. It's not a year. But if you think about nursery stock, you think about an orchard, a cider mill, you know, I think this whole thing starts to add up into one thing that's, I wouldn't want to say out of control, but I have some real concerns about where this is headed and whether the planning commission wants to, you know, discuss this and either make a stance and say, we're gonna write a letter to whatever house board or whatever is going on, or, you know, I'm doing it individually, but I didn't know, I wanted to bring it to this commission to see if we're interested in doing anything besides just me as a private individual.
Hank?
I think potentially writing letters as the board is a good idea. It occurs to me that this is one of those situations where maybe it'll be what it is now, maybe it'll be different, but whatever it is will be happening to us, and our the amount of time we spend talking about it, other than I think writing a letter, you know, saying Planning Commission of Weathersfield thinks this might be a big problem. I think that has value, but we could probably spend a lot of time talking about this thing that we have pretty little control over, considering, you know. So I think we should be cognizant of that, but my guess is we all think that this is potentially a problem.
Mike?
Weathersfield is in a unique position in the problem issue we had with Agency of Natural Resources regarding our sand pit, which is regulated under Act 250. Act 250 as it stands and the implementation process through the Department of Agency of Natural Resources couldn't get the process moving and get it to work for a town to have access to its own existing for over 20 years sand pit. And it ended up costing us a ton of money this year to buy sand somewhere else because of the actions of the Agency of Natural Resources, the failures of Act 250. And if it doesn't work in its current state, how's it going to work making it bigger and heftier? And no, I think I agree, Brian, a letter, and it ought to be a good nasty one to some degree.
So Mike, I'm just gonna jump in here for sure. And I think part of the challenge here, when you read through this, it's Act 181 is 171 pages. And then the various amendments to the bill that come out, to keep up with all of this is almost, it's not a full-time job, but I'm a pretty busy guy and I'm barely hanging on here. And I emailed Jason, and I've also been in contact with one of the land use board members, Alex, I forget his last name.
Oh, Alex Weinhagen, yeah.
Yeah, and he's responded to me a couple of times, and he's supposed to get back to me with some more information. So, I mean, when I ask questions, I get some answers, but when I ask questions to the road rule people, it's radar silence, because I'm guessing they're getting really pounded right now. But Mike, I agree with you, and I think that put some kind of a letter or something is going to take a little bit of effort for us to do. It's just not, let's just write a letter and say we oppose everything, because it has to be factual. We really need to talk about what's really going on here and how this impacts our community. And our community is going to be different than the guys up in the Northeast Kingdom. They have a different set of issues. And Jason, you know that better than anybody. So anyway, I'm sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
I just think if we're gonna do this, this is not just a simple 1 hour, we're gonna write a letter. I think this is gonna take some real work to put it together.
Howard?
Yeah, the other thing that I was looking at too is looking at Act 181 and also 143,
Right.
which are both talking about accessory on-farm businesses. 181 strikes the requirement for 51% of the product being made on the farm, and then 2 paragraphs later it puts it back in. and you look at 143, it says it doesn't exist at all. It's completely eliminated.
Right.
So, what are we to believe? I mean, the two regulations conflict each other.
Does maybe Jason have some insight on some of this?
Off the record, you raise your hand, then I definitely would.
Um. So, I have a short public comment, and I'll start off by saying, this is, definitely a contentious act. It was vetoed by the governor and overridden. I think there are three pieces of legislation, moving forward right now relating to 181. There's also a rally at the State House on March 24th at noon for the, repeal of the act, which the lieutenant governor, and it's a bipartisan, there's some bipartisan support there. But even the governor has made statements that it wasn't what he intended, and that he had concerns about the 800-foot road rule and the tier 3. So I don't think this has necessarily been legally challenged to my knowledge, but I anticipate that's a possibility. What I will say is the town of Fairleigh, Vermont, their select board did a unanimous, looked like they had a rather large select board, more than 5. But I can share a copy of that with you, Chair, and disseminate. But they did do a letter, and it was actually a very civil letter, and it said, look, that we're looking for this to be, we're looking for the tier 3 to be repealed and the 800 road rule to be repealed, and a more measured approach to the other aspects of the act. So I have a very short comment. I want to raise concerns about Vermont's new Land Use Law Act 181. Across rural Vermont, legislators, farmers, landowners are realizing it has serious unintended consequences, especially for communities like Weathersfield with lots of land. Act 181 could make it cost prohibitive and regulatorily impossible in many cases for families to build homes on their land. A shining example is the farmer with many, dozens of acres who wants to subdivide 10 for one of their children, or 2 parcels for their children, and now has to pay all of the fees associated with Act 250 into the tens of thousands. It makes it hard to pass farms on to the next generation. I personally, I'm here as a resident, but I also serve the USDA and the FSA, the state committee for the Farm Service Agency. And there are farms in Vermont. You may have a main farm, but you may lease 2 or 3 neighboring farms, especially as farms sell or don't have a descendant to take over the farm. The leasing is very common. What happens when you need a farm road now between your 2 operations? And it's going to need to be one of those 800-foot farm roads. The practicality is that in Vermont, our agriculture is our heritage. Our working lands is our heritage. If you start taking these things away, you take away the soul of what Vermont actually is. So I think the letter is a great idea. I'll say because of this, there's a growing pressure. People are pushing back. It's become a huge priority. And I would just encourage the Planning Commission in your development to be mindful of the ability of Weathersfield residents to continue using their land in traditional practices, and to protect us from overburdensome or over-regulatory maps, which place restrictions where otherwise there would not be restrictions. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, sir. I had a couple things too, and then Jason,
I had a quick one too, but
go right. No,
I kind of want to respond to Brian. Because of the amount of action over this, I actually wonder if saying, hey, we think there's a problem. I don't know that we need to have a lot of detail. I think just the volume of I'm not sure what the right answer is, but this doesn't seem like it. Putting our little letter in as another one counted.
One more on the pile.
Yeah, because we could spend a long time figuring out exactly, and then maybe it changes next week.
But we're gonna solve all the problems right here.
It feels like it's gonna change next week, so I think
It will change next week.
I think a minimum amount of effort to say hey, we're also in the group that thinks this might be a problem.
I love the idea.
And certainly that's one approach you could take. You could say there's something very general and say, we have a lot of problem with many issues here. And it goes out the door. And then you can always follow up at a later date as different bills come along to support or not support.
That's anyway.
A couple of the things I had just generalized questions on, because I'm learning about this all too, kind of in real time. the road rule, that's a tongue twister. What defines a road versus a trail or a path? And then like, are there ways to quote unquote word something that could kind of make it a little bit more, manageable for people to be able to utilize their land? And then also, are there like implications that we have to worry about with PUDs and the subdivisions that we have? Because we're already looking at, trying to make it so we can have these larger lots be, developed into something and still have the land in the back that, is all taken care of, and then doing that. That's gonna trigger Act 250, but the PUD was almost gonna trigger that to begin with, though, wasn't it?
Hence, though, Joe, because the whole point of talking about doing the PUDs was to preserve some of that large farm space and to prevent someone from chopping things up, but to allow them to build a home on 1 acre or 2 acres for their family. And hopefully with a small collector road that's less than 800 feet, if that's the way this shakes out, then everybody wins. But, I don't know. You can't tell because you don't know the topography, you don't know where the wetlands are, you don't know where the stream crossings are. So yeah, you could trigger Act 250 very easily.
A lot of things.
I mean, if I think about it, if you just drive down my road, I could see a couple places where, yeah, there's buildable land, but you gotta get across the water. And that's where you're gonna start to have a problem.
And the one other thing I was thinking is, what type of protective measures and language can we create here in the town that would protect us, or does it not even matter because the overlords say no?
Yeah.
And those are kind of just my quick generalized questions on that. Jason?
Hi, where to start? Ooh, so I'm by no means the Act 181 expert.
But thank you for coming.
Yeah.
But
Thank you.
There's an awful lot of conversation right now about Act 181, and I just say a couple of things. I do think there is probably some confusion about a couple of different acts maybe being combined, people's concerns, and there's Act was 59, that's the conserve 30% of our land by 2030, 50% by 2050, that's different. It's not Act 181, but that may be of a concern to some folks. There's I hope I have my numbers right. Act 121, which is like the wetland rules and flood regs, river corridor, state jurisdiction over the corridor regulations, that sort of thing, right? So there's a couple of these things that I think might be feeding into this overall narrative that we're hearing about. But anyway, Act 181, it's huge. People have said it already. It's really hard to get your head around it all. I still haven't. I can try to go through, I think, Brian's questions, and that might be a better way to approach this, if that works for everybody. But I would say, like you were pointing out, Brian, the road rules, contentious, the tier 3 is contentious. There's at least 6 maybe different bills this year that have Act 181 related amendments to them. So I think a simple approach is to just say, yeah, Senate Bill 325, if you are so inclined, that's going to extend the road rule implementation. It's going to extend tier 3. It's going to extend a bunch of other things. Maybe say, as an interim measure, that's great. There's some other ones, such as H602, where it would be repealing the road rule. So inclined to tell the legislator, hey, we like that. So that might be one approach. That's just something to think about. Okay, so back to Brian's email. So he was asking first about mapping. So in Act 181, as a preface, regional planning commissions are basically told we need to update our regional plans by the end of this calendar year at this point. And you gotta have these categories, and this is what they're defined as. So we have that. I have this here, look at it or not, but to answer your questions more immediately, will the planning commission have an opportunity? Yep. We've had a problem with timing though. You were working on your town plan and we were doing our regional plan, not ideal. So we were trying to have some conversations. We had 3 with you last year. But I think, we were both so focused on our own thing, that we didn't really fully understand the other thing. There's 11 RPCs, we're all trying to get through this land use review board process. To do so, we had to get in this month, so we're doing our preliminary application review this month, Friday, as a matter of fact, this Friday. The land use review board is coming to Windsor, so if you want, 1:30, if you're available, 1:30 in the Windsor town offices, they're coming to town. They're gonna be talking with us about our regional plan. They're gonna tell us, I'm sure they're gonna want changes, so they're gonna tell us what changes they want after that meeting. We'll have another crack at it. And we can certainly talk more with you today, tomorrow, next week, and as we make any needed changes. We have to have 2 public hearings after that. And by August-ish, we're hoping to submit our final engineering plan. So over these next few months is the time. So let's keep talking. Let's make sure we're on the same page. Okay. Does that answer, Brian, I think your first question?
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure the door wasn't shut. I didn't think it was, but
It's not shut, it's a little,
and I realized it's late, and we're late to the party, and I apologize for that, but
it's okay.
my focus was not on this, was on the town plan.
But that's okay, we're a little bit at barn door, but it's not done. We can still change stuff, and I expect that we're to change stuff. We can keep talking about how the map reflects Weathersfield.
I have a question that's unfairly complicated probably, so maybe we can hear more about it some other time. But because I'm relatively new here, perhaps, how does the regional plan what does the regional plan dictate to us?
Hopefully nothing, hopefully we're working on it together, and it's not dictating to you, it's what we collectively want.
But there are statutes, like you guys are told to
Right.
do a regional
So,
plan.
The real answer, if our regional plan and the town plan have a conflict, Act 250 is gonna look to the town plan in most cases. But when it's a project of substantial regional impact, they're gonna look at our plan.
That's the difference.
So in theory, we could trump your plan if there's a conflict.
On certain projects.
On big stuff.
What are examples of that?
They're few and far between. Bad example, but I'm just thinking of the biomass plant that was being talked about in North Springfield.
Yep.
That had to go through a different process. Had that been Act 250, I think that would have been an example.
Mm-hmm. Big project.
If by chance, I don't think our plans were in conflict there, but if by chance they were, they probably would have looked at ours instead of yours.
Yeah, but that's a pretty big project, so that's
That's-
kind of the scale. I mean, that helps me understand.
I don't want a conflict, by the way, but
Neither do I. I'm just curious.
Mike, go ahead.
Have any of you read the letter? It's an open letter to the Vermont State Legislature by Anna Burrell.
Yes,
Have you seen that?
yes, I've seen it, Mike.
I'll send it to you if you'd get it to the rest of the. I'll just go quickly through. She lists like she goes through this chronologically, explaining what each section does and how it means and what it means. Well, what this law actually says in plain English is like her first headline. I'm not going to read this because it's very, very long. Your own number 2, your own implementation board is raising the alarm. And she talks about that, the real cost to real families of real Vermont families. 4, Vermont's own history dismantles the environmental justification. Who gets exemptions and who doesn't? That's 5. 6, this is a coordinated multi-session plan, not a housing bill. 7, the board that will decide your future has already declared its values. 8, what happens to rural Vermont when you make it impossible to build? 9, a question this legislature must answer on the public record. 10, my demand, and Hannah Girl. Anyway, I will send this over to Ryan so he can get it out to the rest of you to read. Like I said, it is a long read, but she did a lot of research. and made quite a bit of sense when you read it. Thank you.
Back to your question, so the town and regional plan conflicting. Act 181 gave us two other scenarios, so. The way we have in our regional plan, the little centers. It gives you automatic designation, so. We basically have Perkinsville and Scotty's village centers as state currently has designated them. In their status quo boundary. You're never gonna have to apply to the state to renew those things, as long as they're on our plan, so. You know, a little bit. Mostly that's not bad, and you know, we wanna make sure we're on the same page there. The other piece is we now can potentially create, so-called neighborhood designations, and kind of the same thing as tier 1A or 1B, which gives you Act 250 exemptions. Act 1A is full exemption, Act 1B is partial exemption for housing projects only. I would have loved to have included some of that for Weathersfield, but at the moment we don't. We don't have any of those. For a planned growth area, which gets you there, you need to not have an expired town plan. You need to have water and sewer, or adequate soils. To have sidewalks. Just to have, unfortunately. For village area, maybe a Scotty could get there, and maybe that's a future amendment that we can make, but at the moment, again, you need a expired town plan. You need water, sewer, or adequate soils, and some other details that might need to get flushed out. I'd love to get there, but it's not in the map right now. We can always amend. We update our map, and we update our plan every 8 years, and we can amend it at any time, so it's something we can always change. So hopefully that answers your question. Back to your list, okay,
Yeah.
thank you. 51% rule, tier 3. So I've been reading this thing and I'm getting more confused as I read this thing, so this is how it's talking about. Act 181. Eliminated the more than 50% language in what is now Title 24, Section 4412. That's the accessory on farm business. That's now gone. But if you look at Agency of Agriculture's page, if you look at Act 50, like you're talking about before, it's still there. So how does one interpret that? You know, it's a little unclear. So it's unclear to me. I think when I was initially looking at your question, a couple things occurred to me. You know, is it a farm? So it needs to basically meet the definition in the RAPs. So the Agency of Agriculture has these. What does that stand for? It used to be AAPs. Now it's Required Agricultural Practices. And I think that spells it out. You know, you have X number of pigs, and you got 4 acres or more, and you know, sell $2,000 or more of goods a year, and those sorts of things. So I would look there first, whether you're a farm, and that hopefully would indicate whether or not the RAPs apply to you. Secondly, the 50% rule, I think, is primarily more Act 250 jurisdiction or the farm accessory business. Again, that's been scrubbed from that particular state law, so it's unclear to me really how they're looking at that at this point in time.
That whole section of the statute has been removed, or just the 50% portion of it?
Just the 50%. So if you look at if you read Act 181, and then if you look in the Title 24, Section 4412 right now, that's where they talk about some of these things in terms of the local zoning implications. And that 50% language is gone away.
So that's where I got confused.
I'm confused too. I just don't know. To be totally honest with you, I don't.
We have a question online. Ms. Murray?
Hi, thank you. I actually had a comment about that. If you go to the agriculture.vermont.gov, the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets, they have a specific page that says Act 181 changes for accessory on-farm businesses. And it goes into detail exactly what you're talking about. And it clarifies that when they talk about the more than 50%, it specifically addresses construction of improvements for the preparation or process of qualifying products are exempt from Act 250 permitting, provided that more than 50% of the annual sales of the prepared or processed qualifying products come from products on the farm. But otherwise, the 51% is done away with. You can sell your own products, you can sell other people's products, you can sell merchandise, and that's all provided the town allows that. It does need to, says it does need to specify the town has to allow those things, whether it's the plan or in our guidelines, but I can email that over to you. It's just agriculture.vermont.gov, Act 181, changes accessory farm businesses.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good. So again, it's not very clear, and there is some conflict, but that may happen. And I think the third part where I don't think it really implies the 50% rule or not, but in tier 3, so the land use review board is in the rulemaking process for tier 3. Most of Weathersfield, all of Weathersfield today is tier 2, basically. At some future point, unless it gets repealed, there will be a tier 3, and that will be some portion of town. The most recent version of the rules, it was going to be a pretty small area. I said the map was in the agenda packet.
So Ryan, could you put that map, share your screen, just I think it'd be easy for everybody to see that, because that's the latest.
That's the latest, but they're gonna have a new one at the end of the month.
Okay,
So,
but at least it gives you a glimmer of.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's the yellow.
It's, yeah, you got it.
yeah,
It's in the packet.
90%, it's like Black River and
Yeah.
that area.
yeah, if you look at that on,
Westwood down
There's-
is, and Tarbell Hill.
there's some, the higher elevation areas up on Roundscutney. There's some of the larger class 2 wetlands in town are included.
Oh,
And then-
green.
And then there's a whole bunch of stuff on kind of the western side of town, which is, I think, essentially their idea of wildlife travel corridors. Good for bad, that was in their second version of the rule.
What page of the packet are you looking?
It's the last page of my,
Oh, right there.
Page 9.
Page 9.
yeah, thank you.
You're right there.
So it's the green and it's the greenish stuff and the yellow and the
It,
double polygon.
it's all those, it's essentially all those colored blobs, if you will, together. That's gonna change. But in that version, it was not a huge land area. But if you happen to be on, 131 corridor, oh, wait a minute, that's a lot, So I do think, the tier 3 rulemaking is important, and I would just encourage everybody to try to stay up on it. By the end of this month, they're gonna be coming out with a third new version of the video. And I would just really encourage everybody to just read it and look at it and comment on it. One of the things I really didn't like, I'm getting off. One of the things I really didn't like about their second version of tier 3 that a singular house would have to get, if you're in one of those colored spots, building a single house would have to go through that.
Right.
I don't personally like that.
Crazy.
So I commented on it. But I think, let's look at the third version that's gonna come out soon and let's, put our thoughts together. I'd love to know what you all think, but
Okay.
I'll certainly be looking at it and commenting on it, so.
I don't think anybody's gonna wanna do anything in Vermont. Certainly not move here and start a business or. Yeah, I think it's going in the wrong direction. You want housing. You need economy. None of this is promoting any of that. You're not gonna have either.
Yeah, I mean, for good or for bad, so Act 181, as you may all know, was really encouraging housing where you have infrastructure. So downtown Springfield, places like that, right? Not Weathersfield, because we just don't have the robust water sewer infrastructure that other places have, right? And that, take it for what it's worth, but that's what Act 181 is doing. And if,
I think it's doing a lot more, I guess is what I'm trying to.
well, there's a lot more to it than simplifying. But
The question.
So it's trying to, I would say, the state legislature was trying to make it easier to build housing where we have water and sewer. And the rest of the state, it's either status quo, that's getting.
So right now, the way that we are, the areas that aren't colored in or anything on here are basically staying status quo as we are.
Yeah.
As soon as we hit tier 3, good luck,
Yeah.
basically, and we not see tier 1 here until we have civic, basically. Inside.
There might be an opportunity to do tier 1B in a step meet.
Right.
We should talk a little bit more about the water system capacity and some other things, but yeah, there might be an opportunity there only at this point in time. Yeah.
Right.
And I do want to just clarify, tier 2 is status quo, but there is the road. So
status quo plus the road.
plus the road.
Any other happy rules that might be thrown in there too?
Undoubtedly, there's all kinds of detail, but I think
Yeah.
that's the big picture issues. And again, some of these bills are extending or possibly repealing some of these things, so that might be an easy letter to send, is just, hey, Representative Compton, we really support this bill, or whatever you're gonna say.
We support this, well, this
Or
is
what-
change.
But we're not gonna
Well,
similar to.
So
that's
and the other ones, hold your horses.
Stalling is certainly good, but again, whatever your thoughts are.
Well, kicking the can down the road is great, but ultimately you gotta deal with this thing if they're gonna push it. So, I think having a good offense is our best defense.
Up to you guys, yeah, what do you want to play?
Any questions or comments from citizens out there? Mr. Chase?
Hey, I'm Jake Chase. I don't know the exact statistics, but somewhere around 60% of farmland is gonna be changing hands, they say, in the next 15 years. What this Act 181 stuff looks like to me is a land grab. It locks down whatever is in tier 3, basically, you're not gonna be able to touch at all, is what I'm reading. And Dr. Murray mentioned he said Fairleigh, but it was Fairfield, Vermont. I actually brought that letter, I'll hand it over to you guys, that way you have a copy. They appreciate it. It's wonderful. They go, they go a decent ways, but I agree with Mr. Todd. I don't think they went far enough with their strong language. Like we said earlier, the governor vetoed this, and then that supermajority overrode him on this, and I intend to go up next Wednesday to the they're calling it what they call, not a protest, it's a rally, calling it a rally. And I believe that night at 5:30, there's also, I think you had to register to attend, but they're also having something going on there. I registered for that. I haven't heard back if I got in or not. But I intend to go up there and just be a part of whatever we can do to resist this stuff. In my personal opinion, it's government overreach. I think we do, as a state of Vermont, a pretty good job at stewarding our land. I'd hate to see us turn into a mini New York or a mini California or any of those places. I don't think as farmers we want that. Again, I think we do a really nice job doing on our land. And I just as we can pretty well clear that the statutes contradict themselves. They don't seem to have a clue what they want to do. They just want us to kind of do whatever they say in the moment, is what it feels like. So basically, I'm thinking, in my opinion, is until they get their acts together and can lay out a concise plan that doesn't contradict each other on every other paragraph, I as a town or whatever, as a planning commission, a select board, I think we need to get that in our letter that hopefully we're gonna get together here and write. So, I guess that's kind of all I got. It's over to you guys. I got.
Yeah, I'll make sure you're on board. See this as well.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Just a quick comment, I think, as quick as I can make it.
Hey, good luck.
Jason, Brian, and Ryan, I think all kind of came to the same conclusion that they're confused over a great deal of the language, right? Good decisions do not come out of confusing language. It doesn't work that way. That's what I wanted to say.
Are there any protective measures that we can implement here in the town?
You need to battle this. If you
Just to protect landowners' rights, and yeah, no, I don't like the word battle, but say, but to give us a good solid foot to stand on, and this is Weathersfield, this isn't Greater Vermont, this is Weathersfield. We should have a say over what happens in Weathersfield. The strongest say.
That's tough.
Yeah.
You know, other than trying to get some clarity on some of this stuff, I'm just informing people what the rules are. I don't know that there's anything you can do to undo these new potential state requirements, but I think if we all know, we all have clarity on it, at least there's that.
So much for declaring the sanctuaries, you know?
I don't have any silver bullets for you. I do wanna just flag, I think in Title 10, Section 6001, in many, I don't even know how to tell you this, but in here somewhere is talks about the road rule. And it does say, and I quote, state or municipal road, utility corridor, and electric transmission, blah blah blah, a road used primarily for farming or forestry purposes does not have to follow the road rule.
That's,
I think I read in that letter that I had that that's true until you subdivide and try to put a house in, and then
True.
it crosses the.
That's true, but from a farming point of view, this might help.
so that would kind of fall in the trail or path or utility
So if you're-
aspect of
If
it.
you're building a farm access road to get to the back pasture or wherever, that should not trigger the road rule, so, you know.
Should not.
But if you go to subdivide, well, that's a different story, right? But I hope that helps someone.
I like that, fair enough. Dr. Murray.
Thanks, Chair. Third and final comment of the night. I don't know if there's surprise involved. So you asked what you can do. It's kind of like what doctors can do. I'm not a medical doctor, but do no harm. And anywhere the word shall appears in the town plan and the changes to the town plan, any shall is a dirty word in terms of overregulation, government overreach. And I don't know how many times it appears, but it's probably upwards of 100. And so I would just say that what we're seeing here is a convergence of ideas. And some folks believe Vermont should be in conservation. It should be a beautiful corridor between ski areas and urban cities outside Vermont, where people can drive into Vermont. And it's just beautiful, beautiful forest, beautiful trees. We can hike, we can ski. But what you're seeing, it's like even on our town plan, the picture, there's no Vermonters on here. There's no farms. There's no pastures. There's no cows. There's no sugar houses. There's no firewood. And so I think what we have to ask ourselves in Weathersfield is, who are we as a community? Do we want to retain all those things that make us Vermont historically? Our rural character is our heritage. And this goes into this convergence of ideas. One of the things on your agenda coming up is the clean environment, and their picture is just like that picture, is just forests. And they worked on our town plan. And Vermont has 668 lobbyists, and they're a lobbying firm. They're a partisan lobbying firm. It says on their website, a statewide environmental advocacy organization. Then it says on their about section, bringing environmental justice and corporate accountability into Vermont. What does our town plan have to do with environmental justice and corporate accountability? It doesn't. I don't personally believe lobbyists should have their paws in a municipal town. We're supposed to be nonpartisan. These are partisan registered lobbyists advocating an agenda. And our town plan should be, that's why the beautiful thing is being able to come and provide public comment to this commission. to go to a public hearing is very valuable, but we can do no harm. We don't have to put undue regulation on top of regulation. We can preserve the property rights of Vermonters. And so I don't encourage any money to go to registered lobbyists from Weathersfield's bank account. Thank you.
That was kind of a little bit more under item 8, but I appreciate it. Any other discussion on Act 181 at this point? We can go all night, I'm sure. Mike?
Well, Joe, you mentioned, I think, the word sanctuary. And I'm gonna ask that kind of in a question, but sanctuary status that I think we're familiar with seeing today is that a town, city, state, municipality, whatever, is taking some step to reject federal authority. Does that sound about right? Ish. How would the state of Vermont feel if towns just started saying, hey, you know what, screw you, you know, we're, like you said, sanctuary, no, we're not gonna do that, we don't wanna do that. You think you can do it? You know, supremacy law doesn't, part of the Constitution doesn't count. Why do we have to do it? You know, they're setting the standard, right? Just food for thought.
I have no good answer, but it's a question of what we could do at this point, shy of raising our own flag.
Well, starting with the letters, that's the first step, and as Jason suggested, we've been looking in the other direction because we're trying to get this town plan finished. And now we have a little free time,
Well, at least we had the free time at the right time.
You know, this is state law, whether, you know, we like it or not. And so like I have my legislative mandate, I'm working on it right now, create this regional plan. But if you don't like the law, talk to your legislator to change it. That's the bottom line.
Well, it's one of the great rights we have here in this country too, is the ability to speak out on stuff. Any comments for anybody online or anything? Right, no, but you're not sharing your screen anymore, so no, never mind, I can see that. Any final discussion points on Act 181?
So do we want to talk about what's our next step here tonight?
Overwhelmingly, I hear a lot of support for a strongly worded letter. Asking us here at this board to draft language is our favorite thing. You know, would we want to have someone take point on drafting up the letter and bring it back for the next meeting, or should we only 7:30? We could devote a little bit of time now to it. How's the board feel about it?
How soon does the letter have to be done?
It'd be nice to get it out in the next couple of weeks.
Next Wednesday, they're meeting, I know it's real quick, but
we got it.
this 181 came through real quick, and I don't think a lot of people even knew it was coming, it's kind of smack us in the face, so.
Well, 181 has already passed, so basically it's dealing with the current legislation moving forward, that might stop it or slow it.
We're at the bill crossover, so the Senate bill is going to the House and vice versa. So you know, we have another month. State legislature, you know, so now we're soon, it'll be good to let them know what bills you like and what bills you want to see modified.
Do we have any idea what that schedule looks like for the bills that are countering this or?
Exactly, I mean, crossovers like just happened, so, and I think.
So we can get that information, but so it's not like it has to be done next week, in other words, that's what I was trying to get to.
It was crossed over on Friday, that was the
Yeah.
drop dead date for crossover legislation, so
Right.
we've got a little breathing space here.
A little. Like 2-3 weeks, something.
I'd say next week we need to have something drafted, ready to go. We do our wordsmithing on it. How do we go about drafting this without violating open meeting law?
Well,
It's easy, somebody writes a letter and sends it around and puts it on the agenda and we discuss it.
we've heard, let's not reinvent the wheel.
Right.
There might be some letters out there already. I mean, this one right here, that one right there, this one that I introduced by this bureau. They make a lot of good points. They've done a lot of research and make a lot of good points, and maybe we can sign on to those.
Sounds like you're volunteering to write the letter.
No, I'm not volunteering.
But I am.
I not have time to do that. I would.
There's a Facebook group, Vermont Act 181. Neil and Ann Ryan are kind of taking lead on that, and I would encourage all of you to get in on that group if you're not, and just kind of read what's going on there. There's a lot of information going through there, and it's just a good place to start for ideas.
So I would say we need to have a motion to write a letter at this point. Is that where we're at, or do we just want to draft it and then? Sir?
Another question. Do we want that letter to come from this board and the select board?
I think that's what, yeah.
I think
That's what I'm seeing here, is this is a letter from the select board.
Well, what would be more impactful, Jason?
Legislative.
Board or both bodies?
This is a subcommittee of the legislative body.
Matters, but if both boards sign off on it, maybe they take it a little more seriously. I don't know them.
I think so too.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're gonna do it, I think we ought to have the select board agree that it will be one letter from the town.
So that's gonna probably mean that gonna need some sort of presentation to the select board so they know what's going on
and that would be on Monday is the next meeting.
sooner than later. If you miss this Monday, you're out 3 weeks already.
Yeah.
If it's a timing thing, you may just want to get it out as opposed to the second board signing them. That's just my 2 cents.
The agenda's not out yet for Monday night's meeting, so it could hit Monday night's meeting for at least some sort of update of what's going on, so that at least the select board has an idea what's happening.
As a subcommittee of the select.
One member's here, Rika's online.
As a subcommittee of the select board, it would be a little odd for us to do something without them, wouldn't it? And that impacts that is the voice of the, I mean, if we put out a letter that says this is the voice of the town, probably it should come from them.
No, we're saying it's gonna be from the planning.
Yeah, from the.
Right, but
And I was,
us as individuals or us as speaking for the town?
This would be us speaking as a flag.
the city commission.
It would be good if we had the support of the select
I
board
agree.
Yeah,
signing off on it.
I agree.
I would say if we draft it. And be like, hey, here it is, we approve this and then have the select board sign it too. That would have more teeth to it.
I still think there ought to be at least a brief update on this
I
to the
agree.
select board on Monday, so they know what's.
Yeah.
Because the letter's not gonna be ready Monday.
No.
So it's not about that. It's just about kind of get them to understand what the planning commission is thinking of doing. And hoping that, once we get this letter done, that we'll have their support and however that works out.
Ask for the blessings, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should definitely bring that up on Monday. Would somebody volunteer to present that?
Well, I'm on that board, so I can't do that.
Same here.
I will be, I know. So yeah. I can put it on the agenda.
All right, Hank or Howard?
I'm gonna be there Monday night anyway.
You are perfect. Okay, good. I don't think it needs to be a long presentation, just 3 minutes, just something so that they know what's going on and what to expect. Sure, they'll get a chance to see it and,
Quick little update.
they're not gonna be voting on anything Monday. It's just so they.
Then we'll have something drafted on next Monday for our meeting. So we could sign off on and send on out. First.
All right, so I'll do an update Monday night. You put it on the agenda, Mike.
I was going to say, you've got 3 of the 5 of us there right now. It seems to me that the other 2, we could just notify them and say, please watch the planning board, the recording of your meeting tonight between
Actually,
now.
Or select board is here right now.
I'm sorry?
Or.
Oh, but you're there too, 4 of the 5. It's only Kelly who's not there, right?
Yeah, which does
My
mean we
apologies.
need to be a little bit careful about how we drift into this
Yep.
discussion.
It's about to go into an area we can't go. So.
I'll just make this simple. I'll just come up and I'll brief the select board on our discussion and that way we all stay above board here.
Yeah.
That work for everybody?
Sounds good.
Thank you, Brian.
Hank, would you, since you came up with the idea of the letter and you're our clerk, would you like to draft that?
I don't think I came up with the letter. The idea.
I'll get you a quill and ink. Did that happen because I went to the bathroom?
Yes.
Never not there.
Snooze, you know,
Ass,
Before Monday,
Send a draft before Monday.
or unless you would like to do it, Brian, because you're involved with this already. I was just kind of messing with Hank a little bit, so.
I am happy to hear if anybody else would like to do it.
Look into it.
Thank you, sir. Any other discussions on Act 181, item number 7 here on the agenda? Jason, thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
As always, I appreciate your input with the board. It's
Yeah, but
great every time you come by.
and I would just reiterate, the regional plan, if you look at it, please do look at it, or on Friday if you want. If you have questions or concerns, please just let me know. The time is getting away from us.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you taking the time to answer all my back and forth. Thank you.
This has been very informative, very much appreciated, sir. All right, moving on to item number 8, strategic planning for future projects, and this is listed as item number 7 in our packet for those of us following along online. Ryan, this is taken directly from the town plan that we have forward. Now that we've formed the town plan for hearing, there are no edits or anything we can make, correct?
I don't think that's true. I think we can make substantial change. I need to double check, but I think you can make substantial changes at the planning commission level. And when it goes to the select board, only typographical kind of minor.
So at this point, prior to the actual hearing, we're still allowed to make edits.
As far as I understand.
even up to our hearing. Throughout our hearing, we can make changes.
I would suggest you make changes either during the hearing, or if they're substantive, you reschedule a second hearing.
Yeah, we can't change anything until the hearing is open.
Okay, so we can't.
It's been noticed now.
Yep, that's where I was getting at with it, like, so we'll deal with it then.
And the hearing at the planning commission requires substantive changes, start another hearing?
We can just
think
keep it
so,
going,
but,
right?
I thought at the planning commission, it was open, we could continue to move forward. But once it gets to the select board, if there's substantive, it has to come back to us.
I don't think that's necessarily true.
Okay.
I'm just looking at my book here. At least 30 days prior to the first hearing for planning commission. Blah blah blah. It says somewhere here. I can get back to you if you want some clarity. I think the select board could actually make changes themselves. You don't have to kick it back to the planning commission. But I would suggest, because what the planning commission does is you prepare the town plan and then you send it to the statutory parties. If you then make a substantive change after that, you gotta resend it. So I think you gotta redo it if you make big changes personally. Or you do it during the hearing itself.
Because during the hearing, we can make pretty much any change that needs to be done at that
I
point.
think in theory you could.
Because we all know, we never want to stop working on the thing.
Yes, you do.
Well, I've been waiting 5 years to see the end of this. Yeah, because I definitely wanted to just kind of, there's edits that, citizens, I'm sure we're gonna bring in different concerns and stuff. And my concern on that is if we have some good points that are brought in for things that we didn't see. And maybe even have language or something like that we could quickly let's go with this versus this. Do we then have to go through the whole hassle of starting over, re-warning it, redoing all that, or dealing with it just right then and there, right?
So it says, at the planning commission, no changes may be made between the time the public notice is posted / published and the public hearing. So changes can be made at the hearing. And then it says under the legislative bodies hearing, after the planning commission's changes to the proposed plan / amendment and any written report, unless supported by a petition or request by the legislative body in which case the planning commission must promptly submit an amendment and only those changes, da, 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 da. It's basically saying that after the planning commission makes changes to the proposed document, it goes to the select board. And only those changes discussed at the planning commission's hearings. Only those changes necessary to correct any technical deficiencies, along with any recommendations or opinions by the planning commission, that the planning commission considers appropriate. It throws in another lump of information to make it unclear, but I think it's saying that we can make the planning commission, the purpose of the planning commission's hearing is to hear people's opinions, make changes, and then send the final copy to the select board. At which time they can't make substantial changes, only technical deficiencies and.
Okay, so we got one more round of edits that we can go through while we're in the hearing. And as long as we keep the hearing open, we can just continue with that and then close the hearing and send it to the select board, not have to start all
If
over.
we need to.
Okay,
That's correct.
If anything beyond technical deficiencies need to be changed, that we realize at the select board that a new hearing has to be warned at the
Right.
planning commission.
Hopefully we can get it all at this end. Public input, again, hint, nudge. So we have the list of projects at this point and responsible parties. These are all taken from our goals that we listed out in the plan. Thank you, Jason. And thank you for the clarification around that. What type of action do we need to take on this tonight? Is this just our starting to plan ahead and think of where we want to go with stuff? Or is that putting the cart a little bit in front of the horse at this point until we're done with the actual edits or the hearing and stuff?
Well, I think we should have an idea about what our priorities are. Certainly any future meetings that the town plan shows up on the agenda, that's going to be the dedication, but this is the first night where it's not on the agenda, so I thought it's appropriate to sort of regroup and think about how we want to move forward. So I provided basically the list of planning commission responsibilities just to see how that gets utilized. And then I have sort of my framework for how I thought we should address it, but that's just my opinion. So yeah, so I can go through and explain how I came up with these different documents and what the idea is.
Okay.
But ultimately, I think the goal out of this agenda item is to come up with sort of when we're done focusing on the town plan, what's the next thing that we need to focus on?
Pizza party, the quote line.
So I provided the list of actions, and those, like I had said, are sort of summarized into general projects. And then, so you'll see on page 18, my suggestion for approaching the bylaw amendments. I, in general, have comments on almost every bylaw that there is.
No way.
And we have some things that are very close to being ready to be warned for a hearing and changes like that. But similar to our approach to the town plan, I would feel better starting from a solid foundation before we go and do a bunch of time on band-aids and things like that, and then it might not be applicable. And so there's a list of things that are, if the town is going to have zoning regulations and a town plan, then the bylaws must not do certain things and they must allow for certain things. And so I thought that's probably the place to start, is to get kind of what, if we're going to have bylaws, what does the state require out of them and not. And then
Hold on a second. I might have just been hung up on the way that you worded that. If we're to have bylaws, what type of scenario would we not have bylaws?
there's a variety of towns that don't have a planning commission, don't have zoning bylaws, don't have a town plan. So basically, at some point, the town opted in to be a town that pursues a town plan under that statute, Title 24. And in the process, they adopted zoning regulations and they adopted subdivision regulations, all under this title.
Okay,
And so it's basically saying if you're going, you can have a town plan that says anything you want, but if you're going to have a plan that follows these statutes and you get the benefits that go along with that, then these are the things that it needs to allow for.
okay, thanks for the clarification.
So that sort of stimulated me to review chapter 117 because as long as I've been here, I've only gone through and sort of picked apart as I needed to. But I've been wanting to do sort of a full walkthrough so I can understand how it all pieces together, which is basically what starts on page 20 of the packet. So this is where it lays out what the act is that enables towns, because we're a Dillon's Rules state, what enables towns to function in this way. Basically, that's just saying the towns only have the ability to do what the statute provides, as opposed to something like New York, where a town can do anything except for what the state says they can't do. Flip-flops.
Home rule.
Right. So it talks about the purpose. I included some of the definitions that I thought were useful because, land development is something that is sort of the foundation of what we're discussing, what our bylaws. And then the municipal land use permit I thought was interesting just because it's not just zoning permits. We don't use the terms very intentionally, and sort of there's some overlap in different things, but there's zoning permits, which are basically primarily what we're issuing, the land uses and where buildings are located. Subdivision permits also fall under that municipal land use permit. Site plan, there's building permits, which we don't do, and other things. But so I just thought that was useful to know that it's all lumped under this term, municipal land use permit. Certificate of occupancies. I skipped a bunch of other things as I went through that weren't really relevant to this conversation. Implementation of the plan. This is where it tells you that bylaws are something that the town is allowed to have in addition to site plan bylaws, subdivision bylaws, unified development bylaws, which is basically subdivision and zoning put together in one document. Non-regulatory implementation tools. All of these things are sort of the rights afforded to a town that develops a municipal plan and bylaws in accordance with this statute. Bylaws. Okay, and here's where it starts to talk about what bylaws are allowed to do and not allowed to do. It opens, the 4411 is sort of general, but I did pull some of that information out. And if you scroll down to page 31, this is basically my summary. So I guess this is the second layer of summaries. So I took the statute and then just pulled out the information that I thought was useful. And then I took that summary and I pulled out what the specifics are, what it says we are allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. So page 31 is that summary of bylaws shall not do these things, have these effects, and bylaws shall have these or allow for these things. And then there's a list of what bylaws may do. That's sort of the bulk of the discussion that the town is going to have about what kind of impact, what things beyond the minimum do we want to be regulating. So I think to go back up to page 18, which is just my suggestion, I think it would be useful to start with a baseline. What do the what is a set of bylaws that does the minimum look like? I think the zoning map to me is a natural starting place, because we're looking at where in town we want things. We don't need to talk about any of the details about how anything functions or the different, we'll sort of get into the uses, but I think looking at the map is really the starting place in my head. And then we should be talking about procedures. I think that's it's sort of clunky, and I think the amount of time that's spent on permitting and processing applications and things could be cut in half if the procedures are more clearly defined and I think they're out of date enough that we should start with those. Because once we have those procedures, the different reviews and who's responsible for reviewing what, then it's a little bit more clean to move forward with the districts and the uses and how we want to talk about general use standards as opposed to specific uses.
So question for you, you said changing these things all around, will cut down the time in half basically on that. Now that, we're pretty much quote wrapped up on the town plan, that's freed up a bunch of time for you. How much more would this be able to free up to allow for like other things to be done, or what would that look like?
Well, I don't know. I think if I were to be very broad and generalizing, I would say probably 50% of my time is spent reviewing applications and administering the bylaws. And actually, probably more if you include the amount of just emails and information that I have to share with people. And every bylaw that is unnecessarily complicated and hard to explain or triggers reviews that ultimately don't really achieve the goal that they were set up for. It's a lot of time that I think if we were to set the rules aside and just talk about the process, I think they could be done a lot more efficiently.
Okay. What's the one that, oh, sorry, Mike, go ahead.
I went all the way back to page 18, first of all, where you said build a foundation. Is there a way that we could possibly break this into sections and do separate hearings, create that foundation that you're talking about? Because that seems like the part that's, if you went through all of this and we set it all up, and then we move into the next layers.
Yeah.
And then we find out that that's that's not working for the people, then we gotta go all the way back to stage one and start over again.
What's not working for the people? Like,
Well, I'm
you
just,
process, you mean?
well, like I said, if we did a foundation.
Yeah.
Without getting that approved first, and then we moved on and started applying that. Our stuff to that foundation, it doesn't really work.
No, I think I think this is in a series of different isolated projects.
And approvals and get it done.
Yes.
And then move on to the next section, so we don't end up doing this back and forth.
100%. I would not propose major changes to everything all at once.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a recipe for no.
If the board wanted to start with procedures, I would just do procedures and get all of that approved before even looking at the map and the districts. Or if you wanted to start with the map and districts, we could do that. But
So let me just ask, where's the biggest, is procedures the biggest thing that bogs you down? What's the biggest thing?
Well, yeah, it's kind of a combination because certain bylaws trigger certain procedures.
Right.
For example, if your project is within 300 feet of a deer wintering area and is going to remove at least one softwood tree, then the Conservation Commission has to do their review and like, what are we trying to do? And it takes so much time, and even just my emailing to the commission and saying please organize a meeting and all of this kind of stuff, like it takes just a ton of time. So that's an example of there's a bylaw connected to a process, and there's a lack of clarity about the way that the conditional use review is supposed to work as opposed to the site plan review. And are there different layers of site plan review, like levels where the administrative officer could do some site plan review versus what needs to go to the DRB? I think those types of things, which I think are pretty minor, and could be discussed and amended pretty quickly.
Which would help out a lot.
Yeah.
So why not start there?
That's what my suggestion is.
And mine was just gonna be, let's let him lead us.
I agree.
That's why I asked the question,
rational.
what's slowing you down the most? Let's fix
That's kind of where I was going with it too.
Yeah.
So I think if we can do that, then we can look at the And so I guess what I came to realize is after doing separating out the bylaws shall not and bylaws shall do these things, those aren't necessarily bylaws that need to be mandated as much as we need to use those things as a review process for when we say we want to adopt a bylaw, we run it through all those questions. Does it do any of these things it's not supposed to? And does it allow for all these things that it has to?
Are there any bylaws and things that kind of stick out to you that really scream something that makes it harder to do stuff, a really big draw on your time? Is there something like in particular, like if this hypothetical group B was removed, that would streamline everything? Or
Well, I think the obvious ones to me are the deer wintering area and the ag soils in the villages, places where we're saying we want development to happen. If they're on prime ag soils, which Ascutney is all prime ag soil, it seems like we should pick one. Are we trying to protect the agriculture here? Or are we trying to allow for mixed use and commercial and residential development in these areas? That's just one that sort of the deer wintering area is the one that when it gets triggered on an application, I'm like, so that's the one that jumps out to me. But
okay, so deer wintering is going to be high on the
Now, the question is, where does that come from? The deer wintering, does that come down from the state?
I don't know where it started. I know that Jens Hilke, who came to talk about connectivity and forest blocks and things.
I thought that came down from the state along with the prime ag soils,
I've never seen another bylaw that has that deer wintering area thing, and I know Jens uses Weathersfield as an example because it's probably the strongest in the state.
Yeah.
But my point is basically white-tailed deer are not necessarily the species that we need to be triggering these reviews for.
far from endangered.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that goes for all of our bylaws. It's probably a good time to think about what's the purpose of it and how is it functioning. And I can give you lots of examples about how it's functioning. But yeah, those are sort of the ag soil thing is the one that's sort of like obvious. If we're going to say we want development here and that we put a restriction that is unnecessary and
What other type of projects that we could undertake would be massive time savers? Or streamliners, I guess. I'm not sure if time saver is the right word for it, but to make it so everything can become more efficient. And
one that's not in my suggest, I guess it's at the bottom, is subdivision regulations. That's probably the next thing because subdivisions that's the longest process. Potentially 3 meetings, 2 warned hearings, and in Windsor and Rockingham, where I was doing them, they would dispose of them in 20 minutes a lot of the time.
Wasn't that what we were doing when we were doing them?
The planning commission was much faster.
So why don't we take them back?
Part of the problem, no.
But see, that's my point. Is I think the process that's laid out in the regulations could be made clear.
Those things are so old.
It was only, I don't know if it was part of the Home Act or something. It was only a year or 2 ago where they clarified the town's ability to define minor subdivisions, and those could be done administratively. If someone wants to do a 1 or 2 or 3, whatever is defined as a minor subdivision, that could be administratively approved. Like we already do boundary line adjustments. I think one of the sticking points is the subdivision review includes a lot of development review, and it's not clear about which process are they going through, because there's reason for some overlap and there's reason to avoid that overlap as well. But things that are just not clear in the process, and when is it appropriate for the DRB to require a preliminary, the middle hearing? A lot of times it was just the sketch plan review and the final plat. So defining when that preliminary extra hearing should be used is good. Yeah, I guess that's probably the second most time consuming, maybe the most time consuming subdivisions.
Right. So I think it's time I've read those things again and I'm like, this is crazy. This stuff is written for 20, 30, 50 lot subdivisions.
Right.
What's the biggest one you've done since you've been here?
Yeah, maybe three. I think they've almost all been one lot.
Yeah, so I think it's really time to modernize that stuff, so could we get a big subdivision? Yeah, we could, but. So you need to have, I think the whole thing needs to be redone.
Right, and so I guess my reason for starting with the bylaws was that's sort of the next thing that comes out of the town plan. A subdivision rewrite is equally big as a total bylaw rewrite, and I think the bylaws could be done in pieces where I think the subdivision is sort of holistic on its own.
I don't know what the adoption date on those subdivisions were.
Sometime in the 80s, I think.
No, they were rewritten when I first got on. They were just finishing them.
The most recent one I think is 2010.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it was around 2008, 2010, somewhere in that area, they were rewritten.
Yeah.
Alright, so it's time,
That's a long time ago.
it's time.
Okay.
But it's gonna be a big project.
Right. So I don't know, maybe if we're talking about procedures, that portion of the subdivision regulations can be reviewed, even if we don't go through all the standards and all that kind of stuff.
So looking at a pie chart, we're looking at like bylaws are a certain percentage, subdivisions are another percentage, meetings, I'm sure that takes up a good chunk of your time too. Those is kind of like where I was going for, like, what would be the best kind of, you know, where is it all, so we can help bring it to where it makes it so those big time consuming things can kind of come down and allow the pressure to come off, you know?
Yeah, I think updating these procedures and the different types of review and how they all work together, I think will provide a lot of clarity and streamline the way that applications are processed. And that'll set the stage for us to be able to review the bylaws themselves, which are.
Okay, so get the foundation going first, like we were.
I think that's the appropriate way to go about it.
I think there's room here for an awful lot of this stuff to be done as strictly administrative approval by you.
Right.
I know when I did this for 10 years, the applications would come to me and I would decide, you know, what needed to go to zoning or what needed to go to wetlands or whatever. And I could issue the permit myself. I was under the head statutory authority to issue the permit myself if I didn't think it needed to go to one of these other boards.
Right.
So you didn't waste the time, you only picked be done. That was it. Otherwise, you sign off on it and they're out the door.
Right.
And there's a backup for that. If there's a problem, they appeal the decision.
Exactly.
And it goes to the DRB. So.
Well, that would help cut down on your meeting time in theory.
So I guess
What would?
That being able to do administrative tasks like Howard was just saying.
Oh,
And
yeah,
not
okay.
having to go.
That's a good point, because another big chunk of my time, which there hasn't been a lot of decisions that come out of the DRB, not a lot of applications are going there, at least not recently. But writing the decisions is one of the most, I could sacrifice a day for a decision.
I thought Todd was writing those decisions.
Not
Or
for a while. I think the last couple of years I've been writing them. Last year there wasn't many that went to the DRB.
Is there a reason for that?
For what?
Things not going to the DRB?
Is there a reason that the large commercial development isn't happening in this town?
Okay.
way to put a pin in it.
I didn't really ask that question, but okay.
There's a lot of reasons.
I just, that's what I was just curious, is it because you know, overregulation stifles everything, I don't care what it is, it stops everything.
Yeah. Right, and I don't know if that's the primary driver behind our commercial and industrial uses around here, but that's one of the places where we have some kind of control. If we wanted to improve the ability for people to do commercial and industrial uses, you know, we're not in a position to provide land for that or provide resources for them, like revolving loan funds and stuff that other towns do. But right, we can make the process easier. That's sort of my takeaway from the town plan, is we need to improve our.
But you're the one that's in the thick of this and can drive us, and we just gotta get the train going and yeah. We can get there.
Thank you, we're about to say.
I was just gonna say, it sounds like Brian's gonna tell us what we're doing next, and we should move on to the next thing on the agenda.
Right then.
But I think we just got there naturally, so.
But you drove us there.
Well, you know, we circled back, we could have circled back, but it's not.
But so I guess that's just planning for down the road because the next meeting is going to be the hearing and
Yeah.
potentially the next two if it gets continued. So we're looking at
Well, it's good, it's a good idea of what to look into, kind of a little bit of insight in what's gonna, you know, help your days become a little bit more efficient, help the process become better. And not get things bogged down as much. I think that's what everybody wants to see at the end of this. Moving on to item number 9, donation for Vermont Clean Environment and Town Plan Assistance. Ryan, there's a letter from Steve in here, somewhere. Hey, there it is, all in page 38 of 38. So he is, basically saying it's unusual to make a donation to other organizations unless it's specifically approved by the voters. My first takeaway from this is when we had this discussion of donating, you know, something out to it for the help that we received with languages, that was before our town budget was voted down. I don't think at this time we have any business spending or asking taxpayer money to go anywhere. Considering we have a budget that was overwhelmingly said no. That's my opinion. How's the rest of the board feel on this?
I would feel more comfortable with getting the budget resolved and we just table this for tonight. And once we know the status of the budget, we take it up.
Any other comments?
That seems reasonable to me.
Motion to table indefinitely.
I would just like to remove it instead of tabling indefinitely. That way it's not clogging up our agendas.
It doesn't.
We can always,
You just write it down somewhere and if you have the option to bring it back, you take it from the table at a later date.
okay, I see we're gonna have something sitting on a table that will be
I
collected.
think that's a great idea. I'll just make the motion that.
I just did.
Oh, you
I
did.
made the motion.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
All right, so we have a motion to table indefinitely the donation to the Vermont for a clean environment and, or whatever it was called. All in favor, or we have a motion, any discussion? Oh, I butchered that one, I'm sorry, guys.
No, I agree with you that we need to get through the budget before we can spend any more money.
Yeah,
Even $200.
well, so I mean, the point of this isn't so much to pay her for her time because it would be a drop in the bucket for the amount of time she put into it. It's more of a token of appreciation. Is there anything else that we should do to just share appreciation with them for helping us? We'd write like it's.
We could all make a personal donation.
Make a personal donation. I suppose you could.
yeah,
Aside from money, we could just. Is there any kind of other way to show that appreciation? Or is it unnecessary?
Showing appreciation is always necessary.
I mean, so this all started with, when we had the whole solar energy discussion, she contributed, she came. And she did a lot of,
How many times? 3 or 4 times.
And then I
documents.
so I have enough working knowledge of wireless telecommunication facilities, but my knowledge is only. And I reached out to her because she has knowledge about the systems and what she sees out there as setbacks in other towns. And that's what I asked her for, because I don't know what those are. What are you seeing? And I confirmed that by looking through other bylaws and things. So that was the extent of the engagement. But yeah, I mean, I've probably communicated with her at least a dozen times, and I thanked her for her information. And then we brought it here and discussed it and chose our path. So, I mean, I did thank her. I said, it's really appreciated, And especially with the solar stuff, she was invaluable.
She's been helping us for quite a few years.
Yeah, anyway,
I don't disagree with it. I just think I agree with you that and Joe, that we need to get through that budget.
yeah, let's do the budget.
yeah, cause it just seems like
And
it's a bad idea to spend money that we may or not have,
But I just thank her for her help.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is there any way that we could somehow just give her organization kudos? A letter from the commission just saying that, this organization has been tremendous benefit to us and they're a really great organization and, just give them kudos to the point where other people might go to them. projects or whatever, I don't know.
I hear what you're saying, and I definitely think that, you know, the information that we got, to the comment that Dr. Murray made earlier, though, about it being a lobbyist group, that means, to me, that kind of throws some things up there. Do we even have a place as a board saying anything? I don't want to get us in a particular sticky situation by mistake. Every good intention has, the highway to hell's paved with good intentions, kind of. I don't know where I'm really going with this, but it just kind of stuck out in my head as like do we have? Yes, Mike, thanks.
Well, no, I just want to let you know, you just got something popped into my head. And that is, we don't really have the the authority to spend money.
Right.
Sport. So, yeah, it's, you're gonna have to get permission from the legislative body to spend this money first,
So we've decided,
pretty much.
so we need a vote, right?
Well, we're tabling it.
You're tabling it indefinitely. In the meantime, you're gonna have to, like,
Now,
figure out where the money's gonna come from and ask the legislative body for that money, if you come back to this motion.
Right, which we're not for long.
If ever.
okay, so we have a motion and we have discussion. I'm gonna go ahead and call the vote on this. All in favor of tabling this indefinitely, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, signify by saying nay. And any abstentions? It's tabled indefinitely. Alrighty, discussion for items for future agenda, town plan hearing. That's.
This is future agenda, not other business.
Yes, one more.
Okay.
We don't really need to change our agendas around or have more discussions. At this point, we already know where we're going. Any other business, Mike, you're hearing thing?
In regards to the town plan, and this, a lot of this came out when August was talking. And this is in planning for a hearing. The town plan written comments should be directed to the land use administrator prior to the hearing. And should be available to be, entered into the record.
So they should be in the package, Mike, correct? If Ryan gets written comments prior to the hearing, they should go.
Yes, they should be available. And then secondly, the board should consider time limits for comments. And those are gonna be a little on the lax side. You're probably gonna be somewhere between 5 and 7 minutes. Ish, from my experience in this type of a hearing. There should be a sign-up sheet for comments. Speakers should identify their comments as for or against to allow the board to conduct the meeting according to Robert's Rules of Order, which is typically an alternating for or against.
One
kind of discussion.
Okay.
So those are just comments I wanted to make on where we're headed here.
Yeah, because this could definitely have, you know, a lot of it, well, it's got a lot of impact that's gonna happen regardless.
Well, you want as much input as you can get, but you also want an opportunity to keep it organized and process it too.
Ryan, can we get the town Facebook page and Front Porch Forum to kind of really push this out there into the public eye that this is going on? Just a good reminder to be like, hey, people, this is coming up this day.
The Front Porch Forum already lists all the meetings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, I was just saying, just like a reminder out there, like, hey, this is happening. You know, just on social media type of thing, so people can be a little bit involved with it.
So I think the hearing here and the hearing at the select board, they'll have a different appearance. As we just got done in discussion with Jason and Ryan, our hearing is going to allow for changes.
Right, that's where I want to get people
And
involved.
we're gonna, so we're gonna be involved in discussion here. By the time it hits the legislative body, that debate goes away.
Correct.
It's a hearing, and then the select board will,
Hold it down.
they typically should go into deliberative session. You're still gonna have people that are gonna come in and offer comments and things that are gonna show up at a later date. That they have to be considered, and you have to weigh that against the evidence given to us from the planning commission and the hearings. And see, and then make a decision. And typically that comes out of a deliberative session. That decision can be given orally in a meeting after deliberative session, or it can be issued in writing. That's to be determined by the legislative body later, I guess.
Where I was getting with just posting it back up like on the town Facebook page or something like that is to kind of get people here to like comment so we can deal with it then rather than what happens every time.
You're trying to avoid it being kicked back in there.
Yeah, I want to get as much input as possible from people here, everything for it, everything against it, I don't have an opinion, you know, all of it here so we can deal with it. So when it gets up to the next level.
That's why I just tried to explain that process so that people hopefully that see this, hear this, pass it around, that the hearing that happens here is the one that'll allow changes immediately.
The one that matters.
Yes, but once it gets to the select board,
So
that hearing will be different. That there will be a lot, the debate there is really wordsmithing at best, because anything that is substantial is going to kick it right back here. It stops everything. It comes back here. You got to go through the process here again. You got to warn it to go up there. It costs money. It takes time.
Yep.
If that happens, we won't have a town plan this year.
No, I know, and that's why I want to.
So, yeah, so to both of your points, it would be really good if the messaging on Front Porch Forum and Facebook and however else it gets out specifically says that planning commission hearing is when the edits can happen.
Yes.
Yeah, because that never happened.
Okay, so we have.
Can I interject a point too? I think if you, for example, on Front Porch Forum, if you write it as a narrative rather than just sort of the date, time, location, what it is, you know, let people know why this is important. You know, this only happens every so many years. It determines the development of the town in the next 5 years. This is your opportunity, you know. This is the town your kids are going to grow up in. You know, come contribute your thoughts.
I'm willing to have a blimp circling the town for a month after I just said we have no money to spend. Pretty sure that's not in the zoning bylaw somewhere.
As long as it
As
doesn't.
long as it doesn't.
Right,
Yeah, it doesn't land.
It can circle redundantly. All of a sudden we have a good year up here.
So we have 3 weeks until you want me to put it out on like the Thursday each week? Is that enough?
Yeah,
Or are you thinking more than that?
spam the ever living crap out of them.
All right.
Yeah, obviously not
Is
spam.
three good, or are you?
Three is good for me.
Okay.
It really kind of stresses it and just like, hey, this is your chance. You need to come and tell us.
I think language that you suggest to whoever posts
Yeah,
stuff
I'll
might
write something up.
be better than what they come up with. I think that's the point.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Please.
I agree.
Cause I just really want to get this right.
Or like, right enough.
Yeah, right now.
Actually,
I mean, the earlier the better too, you don't want to have them coming in the night of the hearing with 12 pages worth of suggestions, it's nice to have them a week in advance.
Yeah, submit all of your comments, if you have edits, give it to us. And we can look at it and all of that stuff.
A hearing can extend across multiple meetings though.
Correct.
So if they do come in right before, during or whatever, we can still digest.
I remember there was many subdivision hearings that we've had.
Right, that was my recollection.
That had gone on. I remember one that went on for almost 6 months, it felt like.
Longer.
Okay, any other discussion for any other business? Hearing none, our favorite motion is on the table.
I think Howard got it. I'll second.
Okay, so Mr. Beach made the motion to adjourn, Mr. Todd has seconded it, all in favor? Aye. Any yeah, we're good. It's not a debatable motion, we're out. Thank you, everyone, I appreciate it.
So did you boil some sap today there?